Hey, this is Brittany, CEO and founder of Talented Teams Consulting, where I work with HR departments of one to help you to build your credibility and grow your careers. So we are back with day 2 of our 30-day series where I'm focusing on 30 days of how to thrive as an HR department of one. The goal of this series is very simple. I'm really trying to create something that I wish that I had when I was growing up as an HR department of one. I feel like I really grew up as a person within my career, and I know that there are several of you out there also who are in an HR department by yourself, whether you chose to be there or whether you kind of landed in that position or whether you were voluntold to be over the HR department. Wherever your circumstances, I know that there are probably questions that you have, there's challenges that you're facing, and there's an internal struggle. You're trying to decide, is this really where you want to be? So I'm here to talk with you 30 days over the next 6 weeks about how to build your HR career as an HR department of one with intention. To not only build your credibility, but to grow your experience and ultimately to transform your career. When I started as an HR department of one, it wasn't my first introduction to the HR department. I actually worked underneath an HR manager, a senior HR manager, for about 2 years, once in a part-time capacity, and then once I graduated from college in a full-time capacity. So I thought that at that point, being in an HR department for 2 years, like, oh yeah, I know what HR is. But I certainly realized really quickly that once her circumstances made her leave the country and I was forced to either sink or swim on my own, I realized how much of HR I had no clue about. So a little backstory, when I entered the HR department, it was really on a whim. I needed an internship to complete my undergraduate studies, and so I ended up with this HR department as an option for me, and so I was able to do an internship unpaid. That worked out well, so I started working in a part-time capacity. That went well. They promoted me once I graduated from college. But even at that point, even though I went from only having one HR leadership class under my belt to there 2 years later, I still only knew a little bit of recruiting and how to do payroll. That was it. So when I was in HR department by myself, there was so much that I had no clue about. And so I got to those points in my career, those months, those days, those weeks where I was so frustrated. I would come into the office, and maybe you're experiencing this right now. I would come into the office and I really wouldn't know what to expect. I started dreading going to work. I started hating for the phone to ring. I hated for my emails to go off because I just knew that someone was going to ask me a question that I probably 9 times out of 10 had no idea what the answer was or where to even find the answer. And so that's what it led to me figuring out, okay, so there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. So I really dug in and I started creating my own systems to make it so that I had some level of predictability day to day. So when I talk with you about intention, that's exactly what I mean. I think it's so important to not just let the day control how you react and not to let the day, control your experience, your interactions with others. So much so that you have to make sure that you are taking control of the day instead. Today on day 2 of this 30-day series, we're going to talk about the importance of being in control of your day and what that looks like. These are 4 things you need to take care of, 4 things you want to keep front of mind, 4 things you want to start doing as early as this week. So the moral of this story, the ultimate overarching theme, is a few simple words that I think you should keep in mind when you're going through your day and things are getting out of control. But I'm going to save that for the end, so stick around to make sure that you get that nugget. The first thing I want to talk about is the way you respond to emails. So again, when I was in the HR department of one by myself, those very first few months, gosh, maybe even years, I hated for the email to ding because I knew that there was someone on the other end of that computer screen looking for an answer from me. I felt so much pressure to get an answer immediately that I was going in so many directions throughout the day, and it became to be unsustainable. Looking back, I realized that it was a really unsustainable way to do my day. So one thing that I started to do instead was block out times during my day. So I would block out times during the morning for like an hour and a half in the morning, then maybe an hour either before or after lunch, and then another hour at the end of the day. That allowed me to make sure that I not only responded to all the emails or reviewed all the emails in a timely manner. I believe that most people can understand that emails are not to be read immediately, and that was my mistake. But it also allowed me to break up my day so that I wasn't completely and utterly and always in reaction mode. I feel like as HR departments of one specifically, we have a keen sense of wanting to do well. We want to please. We want to solve problems. But it's so difficult to only be in that mode. You've got to also free yourself up to do strategic work. If you're always fixing other people's problems, you have no time to look forward to fix things that really, really matter, things that can really drive the business in one direction or the next. Once I realized that emails are not necessarily to be responded to immediately, emails are not text messages, emails are not phone calls, emails are emails. People can't expect a delay when responding to an email. That really gave me the freedom to kind of let that go. Even after hours, when I had my work phone with me, emails all day and night, day and night, day and night. And I had to realize, hey, if they're sending me an email at 7 o'clock in the evening, it's not necessarily because I need to respond to it. Maybe it's because they didn't want to forget about it the next morning. Maybe it's because it's something they just remembered and they want to send it to me before they forget. Maybe it's something that really just came across their desk, but they want to get it off their hands and put it on to somebody else. All of those reasons are not reasons for me to automatically respond to it, and they're not reasons for you to automatically respond to it as well. You've got to be able to control your day, and we teach people how to treat us as well. So if we get people trained to think and believe that we're going to respond to emails immediately, then that's what they're going to expect from us. So setting out these times throughout the day to respond to your emails is going to be super, super critical to maintaining your peace of mind. The second thing I want to make sure that you are doing is making sure that you are making time for your appropriate meetings. So for example, if you know that you have set times during your day, and maybe 3 is too much, maybe you're not getting that many emails, maybe once a day is good, or twice a day, whatever works best for you. But once you have free time on your calendar, you can really make time for your meetings. If you have a meeting with your CEO or your supervisor every week, work that in. And also build in times to prepare for those meetings. One of my earliest mistakes was not building in this buffer time. And I found my calendar being back to back to back to back, sometimes overlapping lunch, never making time for a break. And I realized that was unsustainable. One of the ways that stress manifests itself for me is debilitating migraines. And I had to learn how to recognize the signs of really busting up against the wall. And knowing my limits, now I can look back in hindsight and realize I was not setting enough time throughout my day to give myself a break. And not feeling guilty for just sitting and just taking a brain break, even if it's not a lunch break. Even if I'm not walking around the office or walking around the parking lot or whatever, if I'm just sitting in my office, sitting at my seat with a peace of mind, just a clear mind, there is value for that. Make time for that. So as you are building out your calendar, don't let your calendar get out of hand, and don't let your calendar control your day. Make sure that you are making time for things that matter. Make out time for your emails. Build out time for your meetings, but also build out times to prepare for those meetings. The last thing that you want is to have a day full of meetings that you had no time to plan for because you were putting out fires the day before. The third area I want to make sure you think about is the way you handle projects, especially the special projects. So as an HR department of one of the things that I had to really come to terms with is that HR is not my only position. I was also on the party committee, on the training committee, or putting together events for employees or for things that happen throughout the year in terms of benefits and things of that nature. And I had to realize that I had to build out time to not only plan for those things, but to build a team together and to implement those things. So again, take control of your calendar. Build out times for what is going to come. The goal of this is to anticipate. I feel like too often as HR departments of one, we're reactionary. We're in cleanup mode, and we don't have to be. I really feel like you have to be strategic in your day. Because if you really want to position yourself to be a strategic business partner, an HR business partner in your organization, the first thing they're going to look to do is see how are you performing in your own role. If you can't be strategic in your own day-to-day work, why would they trust you to have matters of significance in the business function? Why would they trust your opinion when it comes to what the business is doing? Why would they trust that you have value to add to the conversation if you can't control your own self? For instance, it reminds me of the quote, clean around your own front door before you try to clean around mine. That same thing. So as an HR department of one, It's difficult and it can feel challenging and demanding, but if you can figure out a way to not necessarily master and not necessarily perfect, but if you can figure out a way to flourish in your position, it's going to make other departments, especially your supervisor, take note and say, hey, that person is doing a really, really good job. How are they doing it? How are they keeping it afloat? They make it look so easy. That's the biggest compliment. But it's also pretty frustrating because you know that it's not easy. But it's a compliment because you know that it's not easy and you make it look easy. So these are all things you can do to make it seem like you have more time in the day than you really, really have. And the fourth thing that I want to make sure we talk about are my 5 magic words. My team now loves to hear me say this and they understand it to be so, so true. Control what you can control. I've got a few other sayings like this, but this is the first one I want to introduce during this 30-day series. Control what you can control. And a part of this phrase that is going unspoken is if you can't control it, don't worry about it. I feel like as an HR department of one, you are uniquely equipped to have to balance a lot of things at one time. And with that comes the unpredictability. With that comes the sense of urgency from everyone around you. Everybody's fire is bigger than everybody else's, or so they think. And so you cannot always control everything, but there are certain things you can control. You can control your calendar. You can control the meetings that you accept. You can control the way you even respond to people. You can control the way you let people treat you. So I feel like when you control what you can control, if you get nothing else from this YouTube video, control what you can control. It'll take so much pressure off of you because you'll have more control over your day. As an HR department of one, it's a difficult position, but it doesn't have to feel lonely. If you are an HR department of one and you're looking for ways to figure out, okay, so how can you really make sense of everything you have to do? And then what is your career going to look like? Are you stuck where you are? Is there anywhere else for you to go? I have the answers for you. I started my career as an unpaid intern, and today, in addition to my consulting business, I also work in executive leadership, leading not only HR, but training and compliance. If I did it, I know that you can do it too. And if you're looking to find ways to build your career, I've created a guide for you, a free guide that you can download at any of the links below. If you look at that, it's going to help you with the 5 things that your HR career demands as an HR department of one. HR departments of one are unique because not only are you the HR department, but you are the only person with the mantle of the HR responsibility. Your supervisor might not even know what you do day to day. Your supervisor likely has no HR background. Your supervisor probably can't even really evaluate you effectively because they really don't know what it takes to be effective in what you do day to day. So if you want to build your career, how can you do that if your supervisor can't really figure out a way to put measurable metrics around what you do day to day? So in the guide, you're going to learn about ways you can build your career intentionally, the 5 areas that you can focus on. But over the course of these next 30 days, over these next 6 weeks, I'm going to take you deeper into figuring out ways for you to build your career with intention. That's the entire goal of this series, is to help you to work strategically for yourself so that you can then begin to work strategically for your organization. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions for me, feel free to leave any comments below or reach out to me directly. If you'd like to dig a little bit deeper and work with me independently, we can do that as well. Again, click any of the links below. I'd be happy to work with you. I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.